Oh
Mm.
yeah, itaharibika hapo,
So
itaharibika hizo haziwezi. Yeah, I've done that also. Sometimes nazitoa kwa freezer
mm.
na alafu naziweka hapo chini ndio zitho, and then I forget them there for a week.
Welcome to bachelor life. It's peaceful, but iko na some one two issues. But we are ready. I am ready to go through those issues in the name of peaceful existence in the house.
Yeah, I think those are minor inconveniences.
Inconveniences. Wanajiambia, in case I notice I'm starting to get emotional, I ask myself, am I running a nuclear power plant? No. Sasa, if it was a nuclear power plant that has gone wrong, hapo ndo ukisema, or am I in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in an aircraft that is about to
Mm.
run out of. Robert SFDC, karibu sana. When I see Robert SFDC, I normally tell myself mpango wa kupeleka Njeri kwa date ya chai na nduma itaiva leo.
Mm.
So, how have you been?
It's been good. It's been a good
Mm,
week.
mm,
Nothing major. At least kulikuwa ka project tulikuwa tunafanya tumemaliza.
mm.
Although it's still has, we've done the major bit. I think the
Mm.
remaining itaisha next week, inshallah.
Wonderful.
But all is good.
For me, business as usual. I got to hii leo nini from Wednesday.
Mm.
Impressions kwa Twitter were somehow low. I don't know why, but on Monday and Tuesday they were very much okay. But anyway, we keep pushing. Uh, I had
It's the
applied.
ups and
Yeah.
it's social media's got its ups and downs. I was listening to some guy earlier today who
Mm,
was telling me, the way you can invite a well-known personality,
mm,
um, and you're likely to garner views just
mm,
because of him or her being your guest or participants on your show. Um, but there are certain times you can also bring like an person who is not known, and for some reason you have that interview or that conversation, and it hits. You get several thousands and millions of views. And other sort of podcasters, the way they see someone has gone viral to some degree, everyone wants to get a piece of him or her. So they interview him, but it doesn't hit as it did yours. So sometimes, I don't know, there could be probably a like element. There could be maybe the way you interviewed them. There could be just something that hit with the viewers, and hence the higher viewership. Um, but yeah, this is just to show, social media has got its ups and downs. You might do everything by the book, but I think it's just doing everything by the book and then keeping the consistency, and
yeah.
also knowing with those ups and downs.
Like the most now, this is where consistency comes into the picture. So, but you keep pushing even on those days when things don't go your way. You just have to keep pounding on. If you say you are going to be active on the good days only, then I don't think that counts as consistency. So I also got a chance to. I'd been trying to do these moderation jobs. You remember I sent you sent me some clips from the old. You remember the old space we had. So I
Yes.
communicated with them. Then they said, okay, we've reviewed everything. They gave me there's an unpaid task that you would want to do. It's called
Hmm.
reporting, whereby you sort of go through various threads and they test your capacity to see if you understand the regulations. So your job is to like a prefect or some kind. Then they said After a month, reach out to one of the moderators, and we continue the application process. So it's an interesting scenario, and your camera has sort of chopped you.
Yeah.
So interesting scenario. It seems I've really departed from water treatment. The only bit of manufacturing that you can say I have an interest in is automotive manufacture. That is what my mind is really on. The rest of them, I think I spent over, I think, 8 years in manufacturing this. I call them. You see this thing of manufacturing soda, stuff, cement. I call it mundane. They can exist in every country, but automotive,
Okay.
which is
Mm.
basically the preserve of the developed world, that is something I'm
Yeah.
very much interested in. So
It's
I've
very
looked at.
specialized.
Yeah, it's because I think you'll find a cement factory in just about many countries in Africa, but vehicle manufacturing, which to some extent, I think a vehicle assembly plant to some extent can be cheaper to set up than a manufacturing plant, say for cement, depending on the level of assembly you are doing. Because if I sit down with my team of designers and let's say I go for the easiest thing to put together would be a rigid truck, the ones that you use to supply bread and whatnot. And I want to build it as a hybrid. What I'll do, I'll have the design. Chances are the biggest load of expenditure may come from the R&D. Then once I have all the parameters, I'll maybe buy an engine from Hino or Cummins. Then the alternator from somewhere in German, I'll buy also. I may manufacture the cab, the steering system. I'll go to Germany get the ZF, similar to what you see the Chinese buses running in Kenya and Tanzania. I don't know what is it, but in Kenya I'm sure of. Like my favorite, Yutong. It runs on a Cummins engine. The gearbox is ZF from Germany and the steering system from ZF. So if the engine, gearbox, and steering wheel are from other countries,
Mm.
simebakisha kazi kidogo sana. But I have
You
to
just,
buy,
yeah,
yeah. Hmm?
working on the body.
Yeah, they work on the body and the fittings. But then again, you have to know this. The the engines, the American engines, the Cummins, they are only
Mhm.
fitted on vehicles which are meant for export. Because somehow Chinese engines have not really gathered that much of a clout. Although we have engines from
Okay.
FAO, we have Wei Chai, which are being sold to some parts of Africa. But on the global scale, whatever they spend, they go to spend to Europe and America, you'll find mostly Cummins engine.
Mm.
So, but that's where they started before they sort of improved. That's
You're
where they began.
saying producing a bus
Hmm.
to be used internally within China, they can use their own engines. But if they are producing that
It is unthinkable for them to use
mm,
an American engine in China
in China,
because they say even if we have problems, our engines are not so good. They'll say let's keep on. The only way they'll improve is if we keep on making them and making mistakes and learning from them.
that's
But
true.
if we are all just outsourcing the engine, then our engine manufacturing craft will just remain stagnant because our people know that we build the vehicle, then we know engine and gearbox will come from another country. So if I'm
That's
doing that,
actually to grow and develop. So you consume your own product, even if it is less superior,
mm,
but continue iterating until
so
you build something.
if let's say I have the resources for that, of course I'll get an engine from. I'll prefer to get an engine from Japan. European engines
Mhm.
tend to be quite over-engineered and somehow unreliable to some extent. So I'll go with the Japanese engine. I won't need a gearbox because I'm using a series hybrid, the generator taking power to an axle motor. But then What I'll do, I'll now stop importing a full engine. To some extent, I'll start importing what we call slim engines, so that my people become familiar with fitting components on an engine. Because a slim engine is just a block without fittings. So let my people know about fitting these things to an engine. Then we'll go to things, but now building an engine from ground in Kenya with the energy costs will be quite tricky, because you need what we call a foundry, whereby you have to make that block from a block of metal, which can really work against us in terms of power. But I'll be at home with bringing a steam engine, have our people train on how to fit those components effectively. Because in terms of doing, there are people who are not good at doing that. You hear of situations whereby they normally say jamaa ameenda kufungiwa engine imefungwa vibaya. So that is also a task that needs some bit of muscle memory. So that's how I'd go about it within a short time. Because when you bring an engine and a gearbox and you perfect the other stuff, the vehicle becomes cheaper. Automatically, the vehicle becomes cheaper. And then, since it's cheaper, more people will buy them. That means more companies will be able to buy more buses, and companies are revenue generating entities. That means more taxes for the government. So there's absolutely no lose. There are no losses anywhere. It's a win-win, skill wise and a generation of revenue. So no matter how you put it, even before you go to full manufacturing, assembly puts you miles ahead, because that worker in America earns more in assembling that vehicle as opposed to a worker in Africa. And the assembly people in America have to make profits. Then you have to pay for transport. But when the vehicle comes in terms of boxes, one small box for an engine, another small box for a gearbox. Then you have there are sheets that are used to be bolted to form the chassis. Then the body use our creativity to do our own thing, our R&D. R&D for body works should not affect kupatia shida. That's something we can easily do. At our resource level, we can do bodies very easily for buses. It's a win-win. But it seems that the system wants us to import more and become reliant on other entities and keep on spending these dollars. So I don't know. It's a bit of a headache to some extent.
It certainly is. Yeah. I don't understand why we don't go for this kind of policies. I mean, I'm sure these things have been discussed in other fora, and it seems like a no-brainer. But yeah, it's a no-brainer to us, but not to the government officials that control many of this. I think probably what our people have is there's probably more immediate gain for them to keep things as they are than to make that long-term investment. Probably that's what I think happens. Yeah. Anyway, it's as we say, we are the stupid ones now.
We may be the ones who have smoked the wrong things, so you never know. And
Yeah.
also, there's been a lot of hullabaloo about femicide and the government pledging I don't know how many millions for femicide and whatnot. But so what about men getting killed? Sisi tunakufa tu hivyo tu. Sisi tukufe tu, tukufe tuzikwe, life goes on. It seems, in fact, it seems like something driven by a foreign agenda. It doesn't look very, very African,
not
because
native.
not homegrown. Because if regardless of whether you've killed a man or a woman, you are a criminal.
Yeah.
Huh? You should just be, the action should be legal action to be taken against you. Because what about men who die? Men who die, we do riskier jobs. Men, a lot of men die in accidents. Why don't we say, oh, let's make our transport system more safe, because the people who are sitting behind the wheel, most of them are men. And in a bus or in a truck or something, in a mass transit, I think most passengers would be men. So we are the ones at risk. So mbona tuseme, oh, many men are dying in accidents, nini. So it seems like a very strange agenda, and they pledged 100 million. So I was asking, you mean the entire security system was short of 100 million? Ama 100 million inaenda up? It doesn't make sense. Ilikuwa imeitishwa by the security forces. They said we are short of 100 million, and if we get 100 million, all genders will be safe. Ama kuna kitu, something that passed, kuna, as they say, there's a concept that has flown past my head hopelessly. Mi naangalia huku na imeenda huku. Doesn't make any sense. And why 100 million? And what is the 100 million for?
It's a budget.
For what?
Whatever maybe they did a breakdown of what they need.
To do what?
It's all about how you present your idea.
You
So
see,
you can call it whatever you want, but and I guess that's why they have to find names to these things, because if you talk of murder is murder.
it's murder.
Murder is murder. It becomes murder if it's murder to a human being.
Yes.
That human being could be male or female. Now, there probably could be an increased number of murders that are on targeted women. Maybe we could speak about that.
So what type of women are being killed now? In what career?
Yeah.
So which women in what career? Ni wanawake gani hao na so that the figures gone up?
Yeah, maybe that's the other thing. Break down to understand if there's a trend, a targeted group of women. Is it in certain places? The investigators need to tell us.
Because
it's the same way, kidnappings of children, and maybe it happens at night, and maybe it happens in a part of the city. That kind of a thing. So now you can begin breaking it down to what this trend really means.
So, if we talk of domestic violence, first order of business, there's normally a trend. It may begin with a shove or a slap. The moment that happens, it is up to the individual affected to take action. One, go away. Get a restraining order. You can actually nip these things in the bud. Secondly, how are these unions set up? That's why you have to be a bit traditional. How are you meeting? How do you get to move in with this person? Do your parents know? Were there meetings within the panel? Is it an official setup, or is it something that you met on Twitter? You told each other nice things. The man seemed to be charming and whatnot. Kumbe, you are dating a serial psychopath. See, when you depart from the usual way of doing things that has worked, there are going to be consequences. They are going to be and they are going to be very, very severe. So, number one, let's say someone shoves you and you fall to the ground, no major injuries. What action do you take? Because if you take no action, you are emboldening this person. You say, hey, oh, kumbe, I can do this, and nothing happens. So it comes to two things. Number one, are you allowing these things to happen? Number two, when a police station receives this kind of information, what do they do? And do you have some reverse mechanism where this woman, if it means going back to live with her parents, living with the parents it's better than living up 6 feet deep. And there are some problems I don't think you can solve them fully or efficiently by simply throwing money at them. In case like Kenya, I'm sure some of that money with the way we do things, some of that money will just take a detour and see a job party. What ends up target is 20 million out of 100. So what are we doing? Some problems need more than just money. Some problems need policy. For example, you should not move in with the woman before he's married. You are married to her, and your details registered, so that it becomes some sort of a company with the husband as an employer, woman as an employee, which is monitored. The same way you have labor union taking care of the parents, is there taking care of the companies? Is there a union that deals with issues of the marriage now that we want to put a firm grip on this situation? Is there such a thing? Because when something is deterred, chances of it happening is not going to be very high, especially if the deterrence is by government. Deter. What is the process of you ending up with the woman for a month, 2 months, 3 months? What is happening there? And you're not married to this lady. What are you doing with that? So as long as you're not married, there should be a lot of what we call roadblocks, to a point where individuals who are not committed to jump, who are not showing the commitment to jump through these roadblocks, now will feel yeah, tuwezani nayo. Then they are completely kept out of the system, because these are happening because of men who are not supposed to be in that institution or in that setup are ending up there. How are they ending up there? And if it means extreme measures like getting a certificate of good conduct before you marry, set it up. Kwani iko nini? We don't want a thuggish character or a ex convict ambaye amefungwa ameachiliwa, amefungwa tena ameachiliwa, amefungwa tena, makosa kupiga watu, amepigana kwa bar, jua alipigana na conductor. No way. That creature should not be allowed anywhere near a woman, because we know a woman's capacity to defend herself physically is somehow limited. And you put her in an enclosure in an individual who has very little control over his emotions. Are you not sort of creating a disaster? So maybe we'd see what that your 100 million inafanya kazi gani, because extreme situations need extreme measures. If they say now you need a certificate of good conduct before we allow you as a man to marry, please, I'll sign up for that one very quickly. You nitakubaliana nayo. If you are to take this union seriously, you cannot have multiple convictions, all of them related to assault, then we allow you to marry. That's a no. Remember, the person you are marrying has a very powerful element of physical vulnerability. And you've shown that you have problems keeping your hands to yourself, especially when things don't go your way. So hapana bwana. You maybe you, I don't know, maybe you try gay marriage. Uvutane na mwanaume mwenzako huko. I don't know. Although I'm not for gay, but that is the only thing you could left the attempt, because you've shown that you are disciplined to keep your hands to yourself when things are not flying in your direction is limited. And we know some the way some of our sisters are, some of them are experts at picking your brain apart. You need to sort of control yourself. If it means kama ni divorce, but kupiga mtu mangumi na kuua, that is an absolute no. It's a no. So I hope that plan is there. I lean towards prevention, looking at somebody before you employ someone in your company. You have to know their professional trends. Does he finish assignments like in his previous stations? Things like reporting to work. Is he a perpetual, is a habitual latecomer? Discipline, what no, communication. Now, if you are to take this of marriage seriously, why don't you also look at that to avoid this crisis? Because some of it is just character, just the wrong characters getting together. And also the same for woman. Equality si mnataka, kama ni mtu mdomo perepepe, hapana. Weka nyumbani tu. You are sort of provoking someone. But then again, this is me talking, and I may be mad also, so you never know.
So what else is happening?
Uh, the usual, as I normally say, the fear is gone. It has been replaced by, what I say is that the fear has been flushed out by anger, frustrations, and hunger also. When you hear an
With,
entire head,
with regards to our
yes,
presidential election
yeah.
in
So
Kenya.
the last time we had such a situation was at the height when you remember the NAC coalition formed, is when now people could now talk back to the president and say whatever they want to say, because they knew that there's another force that is coming in to replace him, referring to the President Moy. There was a time that gentleman was like a god. He talks, everyone keeps quiet. But when these guys in the NAC coalition ganged up and said, this time we are uniting to send this guy home, people said, we're behind you. But this time there's no other force opposing him. It's just the internal anger, internal frustration. It is boiling from the inside. And it came to a point where I think it was in Embu. Leaders were now clashing on how come the president was shown such a response. But why do you clash when people are just expressing their feelings? Then recently, who is this guy? The so-called advisor to head of state tried to criticize the recently dismissed DP. Was- Now, for it was called Moses Kuria. It was a very interesting type of heckling. They were heckling him with a gospel song, and you know when they heckle you with a gospel song, it's like trying to say you're of the devil.
I think, yeah, for me, it's clear that our president has not been. I think there are many that have tried to justify some of the things that he has been doing, trying to look at it from a different perspective, trying to sort of sanitize it to some degree. But it's been 2 years plus now. Is it 2 years? When did he come in? 2022,
2022.
2024. Yeah, it's already 2 years now plus. Actually, 2027 seems way too far.
Yeah, in fact,
But
people are saying
I was
2020.
listening to another, I was listening
Yes.
to another interview
Mm.
of Steve Harvey. So Steve Harvey was in South Africa. I think there was a sort of a film festival happening there, and they had invited some of the government officials from Botswana. So he was part of that panel discussion, and he was talking about some of the things he's trying to do to sort of elevate the filming industry in Botswana. So it's sort of advising the government. I think they're trying to build film studios. They're working on a policy in terms of how they can attract filmmakers. There are filmmakers that come into Africa to film because of some of the sort of our flora and fauna that we have, and that is uniquely African. I think the current number one destination now is South Africa, and Kenya was one of the top ones. But it's just that our policies have not been friendly. So what he was suggesting was, one, create a policy which then provides tax-free filmmaking. But the caveat is this: that when they come in and they won't be taxed, but they have to employ local Botswanians to be part of that filmmaking endeavor. So they need cameramen, they need producers, they are catering. Of course, hotels, they'll use our local hotels. But instead of them just airlifting or bringing in or shipping in people into Africa to do every single little task, some of those things should be done by the people locally. And that way you can take advantage of the tax breaks that are provided. So, anyway, so that was the background, and there was someone in the audience from Kenya who said, "Oh, I remember I saw you with our president when he came to the US, went to the Taylor Perry Studios. You mentioned you'd be coming, but you know what he says? you guys have to stop this stone throwing thing of yours. I can't come there when you guys are stone throwing. And that shows how these mandamanos have impacted Kenya. I bet maybe there were conferences, workshops, meetings, tourists planning to come to Kenya, but the mandamanos have affected, or even businesses looking to establish in Kenya. But that instability and that bad publicity that we got in the global media, makes somebody to think twice. As much as we have all the right ingredients, if it comes to expertise, we have it. If it comes to, great weather, we have it. If it comes to, the infrastructure, particularly when it comes to internet and a number of things, we have it. We have all the key ingredients, but we are squandering because of all this. So this mandamanos, and I saw there was, I think this week, the president was making a national address. Was there some major protest in town or no? Or people just sort of closed off? Nothing happened. I know there was a quite heavy security in and around the parliament, but really this protest and mandamanos, and they speak to the leadership, to have people really dissatisfied with your leadership from the get-go, and it's a sustained sort of objection or dissatisfaction with your leadership. And every time the president is sort of backpedaling on his things, now he had to cancel Adani. So that shows already the choice of who they are looking to partner with. Even if we say let's do public-private partnerships and bring in, an investor or a partner to come in and invest and help develop some of our infrastructure. How are we choosing some of these things? It was clear Adani had red flags from the get-go in terms of its misappropriation of funds and its fraudulent ways of working. But we still are looking to partner with them. And only after this case that came out of New York, that's when we decided to, I don't know if it was the key thing that prompted him to cancel, but already people are against it. So talk of the finance bill and many, many, many other things that he said to backpedal, but it's sort of his backpedaling, and then because it seems like now that I'm seeing people like Moses Kuria back in as an advisor, so he sort of kicked off some of those ministers, but then brought them in the back door to operate in some form of other capacity. Anyway, it's just been horrible, and I think this period for Kenya is probably not going to be a good one, and I hope come 2027 we're going to make a change and hopefully get a good leader.
Mkia Mutata has already expressed his interest to go for the big seat. The thing is this: sometimes, yes, the mandamano, the effect is when it comes to the international picture, there's nothing impressive about it. So, as the person in charge of the republic, what can you do? Can't you say, hey, listen, listen, this mandamano is not good for us. I'm willing to sit with a bunch of you guys on a live TV show. Live, not behind live, so that you represent, and even the public is able to see my reactions. And then, since it's recorded, put me to book in terms of timelines. By this month, I do this. There are things I can convene, let's say, a certain meeting, Arakaraka, 24 hours from today, we are removing tax on A, B, C, D to relieve pressure on the money. These are things you can do. But I think some of these leadership weaknesses, I think, is it due to ego or what? There's a tinge of someone being egotistical that he has decided to do what you are going to do.
I think you might be right. I think there's a bit of ego tied to it, the idea. But
you are a servant of the people. In fact, the person who, if you have elected, you wanted to lead over 50 million, ego should be non-existent. It's about you see the moment you decide that you are going to draw. I remember there was a certain course used to do. I think it was in high school or what, some bit of mathematics. So you draw line of best fit. Which line of action can I draw so that a large chunk of the country benefits, as opposed to I've said something and people have refused, but the people put you there. So it actually begs the question: whose interest are you fighting for now? It's beginning to look a bit strange, such that I can actually reach out to the leader, say, hey, listen, this thing, this fracas won't be good for us. I'm ready. I'm told he had a certain space, but spaces are subjective. Controlling a space is a bit difficult. Sit down with the key people on live TV. Let them
They
even
will
shout.
still,
Let them shout at you and call you names.
yeah.
Hmm. But at least let the nation know that the president has listened and he has made certain pledges based on timelines. But then again, you cannot do that if you have a very huge and fragile ego.
Mm, that's true.
It's impossible as
I
long as
mean,
you have.
I guess, and you could point to the ego to the point that he had to impeach his own deputy president. I mean, if we were to put the same, I mean, how many times did he subvert or sort of show contempt to his own boss when he was a deputy president? He
And
should
I,
have actually been impeached during Uhuru's time.
and I don't know. There are things I don't know. Maybe I'm talking as an outsider. I think deputy president is the most relaxed job in the world. Your job is to simply to echo the president.
Yeah.
So I go somewhere naletea ujumbe kutoka kwa Rais Andrew Mutua, amesema hivi na hivi, tuungane pamoja, pangala. I'm in the vehicle, I'm gone. But I don't know what happens to people. I think it's happened. I think it's similar to when Satan used to sit next to God, and you look at that seat and say, "Yo, kid, you, yo, kid,
You
yo,
know,
kid."
I
And
think
then
what the president has now created is anytime you are looking to get into the presidency, the path is the deputy presidency. He created that precedent because that's how he was sort of got himself sort of already plugged into government. You get to use the government largesses, you move around with great security, all that, have access to a lot of funds. You're sort of prepping yourself when you be taking over.
but
So
you end up creating friction with your boss.
your boss, yes,
And
that's what he's doing.
remember, you were never elected.
Yeah, you
The
are not
president
elected.
just picked you so that when he gets elected into power, you will be there by the side. Technically, you never got elected. So
Yeah,
I think to some
never.
extent, you need to just be patient. Present yourself as an individual who's cool, calm, and collected. Try as much as possible to be the defender, and don't. The moment you have these frictions within the system, some of these things will work against you when you are ascending to power. So I think we have a very wrong attitude to leadership systems. It's completely off. Somebody was
Mm.
telling me about his ex girlfriend. She lives in Denmark, I think, where they were
Mhm.
working. They said they were expecting to, let's say it's Monday. Then you are told on Tuesday at 10, Minister for Education will be passing by. So this is an individual they were expecting an entourage of cars, and those VX Land Cruisers and the TX Land
Yes,
Cruisers and a very huge multitude, and those guys who run next to the car, Bio.
yes, yes.
What what they saw, what she saw when she was now told that Minister for Education will be now coming into the parking lot in the next 10 minutes. So, as what we call protocol, you are there because you don't want him to come there and start looking for you. So, she's there with her rest of her colleagues and HOD. Then, what they saw is a BMW E34. That is a 1993 car. It's in pristine condition, but it's for 1993.
Yeah.
So that's an BMW E34, just one, a black one. It pulls in, it has 5 people. So as it was going around, she was asking, who is the minister? Say, the guy driving the car is like the assistant minister. The minister is seated next to him on the front seat, and the 3 guys behind are some of the advisors. That's the entire ministry. Minister, assistant, and 3 advisors in one car, and it's driven by the assistant minister, not a chauffeur. Now,
the 5 of them were in that car.
Yes, no entourage, no nothing.
Is it a sedan?
A
or
sedan.
an SUV?
Ni sedan. You remember that show called Derek? Unajua Derek?
Yes, Derek.
That car, your BMW, they were riding in that. And then the show doesn't end there. Next, we have the PS. The PS came like 30 minutes later, riding some on bicycles, some on scooters. Ujele scooter unaenda afu unapandia like on a platform. That's what now that is the ministry. Ministry has paid you a visit. One car and a bunch of bicycles and a scooter. And the school system are perfect. Now, copy paste.
I can't probably a GDP several times over our own.
Now
so they don't move with an entourage of 10 cars.
Now, push this to now copy paste and now paste there a typical minister for education in Kenya. First, you'll see a police Land Cruiser moving very fast with siren, we toka waziri anapita, then 3 more other vehicles, then 4 SUVs, then the one for the minister, and 3 more passing by. Zinakufata. Now look at the government schools, how they look like. It's a complete opposite. It's like, are you sure you are the minister? Vile umekai with your SUVs and auto. These are the schools you are in charge of. It's a polar opposite. It's a different. And someone said, if these are the schools you are in charge of, you should be riding in an ox cart. You should be in the same frequency as the schools you are in charge of. Hapana shule inakaa kama something that upepo ikiblow, things will fall apart. Then you come in state of the art. So your transport system is state of the art, but the system you are in charge of looks like a bombing shelter. Look at things like somebody shared a picture of a hospital in somewhere in northeastern. Is it not? Somewhere those arid areas is like wooden poles with some manyasi on top, with a mkeka, and somebody seated there with a child and make you a drip. You in Sibtad. And if the minister comes there, he'll come in an helicopter. Right? So our general understanding of leadership is completely skewed. It's more of self-serving, not servitude. So I think let's see what Omkia Omtata may bring to the table if he ever gets that vote. But there needs to be what we call a revolutionary change in our mentality about leadership. The change has to be very huge. It has to be, because it's now self-serving.
It is.
It is self-serving. You cannot. Something has to be wrong with you if you visit a school. You are now visiting a school in an air conditioned. But they have no problem with the people riding in these vehicles because my thinking is this: if you are the top thinker, if you're the number one reasoner in that system, please let's
Mm,
make you as comfortable as possible. But what,
exactly.
but what are the outcomes of this thinking? Because if you have the resources, your thoughts should be reflected on the situation on the ground. But so far, if this is a reflection of the leader's thinking, then you can even say someone needs a brain transplant. There's something
Yeah.
horribly wrong somewhere, very wrong. Like there's a school they showed. He didn't even have a running toilet. A toilet. And I think they should pass a law that if you are a minister for education, your children should learn in a public school.
Yeah.
Mm. And they will
It's
scare
it's
you.
quite deplorable in some of
Mm,
these things.
mm.
And what I always say is like we don't have self love and dignity, because if that is not the picture you would want to show of yourself and anything associated with you, that is your family and your community and your country at large, then we should do much better than this, man. But it's sad. It's sad. I think our politicians, because of that greed, I think it completely blinds them. And as we say, I think there are also some other forces that we don't get to see,
Yes.
that are at play. I mean, I hate to put this idea of deep state, but it certainly is there. It's there in various contexts. I mean, if you think of it in the Kenyan context, it's there. In other contexts, it's also there's another sort of hidden faces or forces that are at play, and I think to a larger degree they hold some of our leaders to hostage. But I think also those leaders probably have done something to warrant that. If you're more of a cleaner slate, then they don't have much to as much as you might be forced to follow through on something. Yeah. So yeah, this is a sad state of affairs. So dignity, self love, at least that needs to be in play. And I think with that, there are things we have control. As much as there might be forces in the behind the scenes, there are things, those forces cannot prevent you from putting a good road. Those forces cannot prevent you from wanting to improve the school, the hospital infrastructure. Those forces, as much as they might have a hand into some other things, if you are looking to push manufacture, I think you do have a level of control and power to do that. So, with or without those forces, there's a lot that our leaders are doing and or are not doing that they should be doing.
Well, you mean if you're in a situation whereby someone is grabbing you by your balls, ask yourself, how did you get there?
Mm,
Ulifikaje hapo? What did you do to to warrant your balls being grabbed? You must have done something because that is not how
yeah,
men conduct themselves in front of each other. Because if I'm to tell you, hey, Lienda mahali, say Andrew, kuna someone grabbed my balls, you'll ask yourself, how did that happen? Because it's strange. How would someone reach for that part of your anatomy? So you have to you'll have to ask me questions. The genesis, what did I do, or who was I talking to? What kind of characters was I associating with? What time of the day was I? Because if I tell you that somebody grabbed my balls and ilikuwa saa ngapi, ilikuwa saa saba usiku in Githurai, you'd say, but what did you go to do there? You stay in Athi River, Ujahama, eh? So what did you go to do in Githurai at 2 a.m. in the morning? So those are the questions that If someone would say that, oh, there are other forces, how did they get here? What did you do? What situation did you place yourself in to have these characters around you? Which brings back to the situation again, what kind of people are we voting for? What kind of person would the average Kenyan vote for? The person, leave alone us who wameangukia one or two pages of education, the very basic normal Kenyan, what goes through his mind akiwa pale kwa ballot box? That's why you have a situation whereby people are lining up to be given 100 shillings or so. Now, what if I remember a situation whereby this was in a part of Nigeria, someone came with the money and bags of rice. He was kicked out. He was told, if these bags of rice and this money is what is the price we pay for bad roads, please, kaa nazo. Kaa nazo. A bag of rice, as much as it's free, is not exactly free, because you are giving this bag of rice and money so that I do not petition for good infrastructure. And they said, oh, please, we'll take whatever it is you are eating. You go away, set everything correct. And that, if we have that situation in Kenya where politicians know, if you come with the 100 shilling notes or whatever denomination to give people, people chase you, this thing will die. But as long as people are ready to line up to be given money, we have a problem. To a large extent, we determine the standard of politicians we have.
We do.
We've had politicians who are very foul-mouthed, and they keep on getting voted back into power. So if you can be so foul-mouthed in national TV, God forbid, what if I bump into you in private? What will you do to me? And then what happens? Then we lump resources onto you by virtue of your electoral position. Resources are dumped onto you. I'm not going to.
You know,
yes.
I've been toying with the idea, and maybe I need to think of it further. We need to figure out a way of people self-governing themselves. Maybe move away from this idea of, and a leader is important because he can sort of set a tone, is a unifier. But I think, and this is just a wild thought that I've just been thinking, is we have this savior mentality, and it's been propagated, I think, partly by our religion, because we have a religion that says there was a Messiah who came to save us. So every time we are always looking for this Messiah in an individual to save us, to redeem us. But I think what has proven to be true is, one, you're your only savior. I don't know if there's a way to create leaders more than followers. I don't know if there's a way to create a better accountability system. I don't know if there's a way you can create, I don't know. But I think the current system that we now have is many a times proving more and more not fit for purpose, and I don't know which one will. The other day I was, looking at media and this idea of democracy and this idea of the fourth estate, and I just came to realize media in and of itself is just a distraction mechanism. This idea that every morning we woke up to look at what are the latest twists and turns from the presidency and from the opposition. It's like a reality TV we are watching.
Like a circus.
reality show you're watching. It's a circus. So I think media, its sole purpose was to be more of a distraction than a way to inform. It was not to inform. It its main primary objective is more to distract.
Distract, like more of distract and pacify.
Yes, actually, that's a word: distract and pacify. You know, they'll
It's
make you
like
look here, you are doing
you
something
create a
else on this
mess.
other side.
You
Yeah,
create a mess, then you solve it, and you become a hero
100%.
of
Yeah,
a
even
mess
this,
that you
many of
created.
these issues are self-created.
Hmm.
I mean, just look at some of the characters now that we have built over the last 1 year. Guys called like Morara. That's some dude we never knew of. Just a little over a year ago. He came into the limelight just the other day, and he's a character that has been created. Who else? This guy called Kasamuel.
They call him the
People don't
bootleg
know about
tomboy.
the-
I co-
he
He's
did
a
it so
bootleg
well.
tomboy.
He's a bootleg tomboya.
Hmm.
Tomboya Bonoko
Yeah.
and others. But these guys have got their own masters they are reporting to. And if you didn't recognize, and I remember looking at this guy, he always used to appear in demonstration in a suit. And I'm like, who goes to a demonstration in a three-piece suit? And he gets into character. And you can see, I think there was one video that showed how he literally got into character. He put on those sunglasses of his, the shades, and then went into even, I think he tried to distract the camera. They were interviewing someone else, and he tried to push it to his side. And then for some reason, from there, we now saw him in many other media platforms getting interviewed. People later on realized, oh, this is another fake guy, Morara. He came out. First, we thought he was just imitating the president. Yes, he was, but he was pushing something else. Again, created, another created character, another fake character that has just been created for us.
It reminds
Yep.
me of this. There's this movie. I think it was called Hellboy. Hellboy One. There's a certain
Yeah.
scene
Hellboy.
where somebody
Remember that?
says, "I can see the puppet, but I'm interested in the puppet master." Whenever there's a character, there must be a script. There must be a script writer. There must be a producer. There must be a production team. There must be a
Yes.
scene director who directs the scene. So who are these people
Yes.
behind this? What you are seeing behind this movie you are seeing? Who wrote the script?
Yes.
Who's there's a what you call scene director? Nyosha
Oh,
mkono hivi.
yes.
These are the hand gestures to use. Kopia huyu fanya hivi. Then there's somebody at production who's looking at the screen and says, "Cut, very good." And they are looking at the reaction of the Mwananchi. They say, "Good." They believe in you. Very nice production.
Oh, my
So,
goodness. It's in
and
play, bro. That thing is in play.
it's like you remember when we talked. I think it was another one of the episodes. We said this is like a play. This act finishes, another one comes in. This one finishes, another. So once the Morara thing starts to die out, something else will pop up, and another. There was Adani was there. There'll be another one. Then there'll be another. I don't know, for KCC. Then there'll be for KBC. Then there'll be another very funny bill. Then you have this other bill of extending the term for 7 years. We make noise about it, noise for like 6 months. Kidogo kidogo, 2027 in a Caribbean, price of unga is reduced by 50%. All of a sudden, roads zinaanza kutengenezwa. All of a sudden, the hospitals are stopped with the medicine. And you vote the guy back in and you say, we've won them over again. Let's continue
Yes.
eating. And what is so sad is the audience is so deep in it that they will fight you for telling the truth. You
Man,
risk
I tell
getting
you,
beaten. You risk getting
man, brainwashing
Mm.
is bro. The brainwashing. Once you're deep in
Learning,
it and sort of sucked
I
in,
normally
you
say,
can't from
if
a
you
life.
thought learning is difficult, if you thought learning the differential equation, the quadratic equation is hard, try unlearning. Unlearning, you making someone unlearn, you risk getting lynched. Unlearning, when you're in the process of making someone unlearn, you better take a life insurance policy. You may go missing. You're talking
Yes.
of what we call what is this? There's this word indoctrination that
Mm-hmm.
has existed like when you were small. From the you
Mm-hmm.
wake up in the morning, you switch on the radio, chama kanu ndio chama cha Kenya. Now it has gone digital.
Yep.
Man,
All these influencers are part of it. Uh-huh.
the task ahead for some people may be tougher than we think. It may
Yeah.
look easier, but it's quite a situation we're looking at. And we've blown 1 full hour and above, so it's been a wonderful show. And
Oh wow.
Riast. Mm. So I want to say asante
Yes.
to Robert SFDC. Thank you for showing up. And without much ado, I want to say adios from Athi River. Can I say adios? Adios.
Adios. See you on the next one.